Oh. Camera, don't fall over. Hello. I'm trying to get my paper back in frame and not knock my camera over because yeah, that's how that's acting this evening. All right, so tonight I'm going to be working on chapter 23, page 7 of Age of Night. It's on chapter 2 or chapter 24, page 2 online right now. So this is going to be about a month ahead of where we are available online at the moment. So I've already got my panel borders laid out, and I've already got some perspective grids down because those are kind of big and awkward to try to do on the stream. And so now we're going to start roughing stuff in. I've got my lovely thumbnails just out of frame here, along with my script, in case I need to reference it for anything that's going on in places where my thumbnails may not be super clear. This sequence, most of this chapter is very actiony, so a lot of what you're going to be seeing is a lot of very tiny bits of script where this whole page takes up like 4 lines of script. There's just so much action, not a lot of talking. That is okay. All right, so first on our perspective grid, I'm going to start knocking in some of this. I need to move my thumbnail somewhere where I can actually see it. All right. And I think I made that first line too low. Yeah, that's a great start. Very first line I made too low. That's okay. We shall erase. The edge of that platform and some of the shrubs in the foreground here, which, yes, since I'm just roughing in, just look like, blobs. But you'll get there. This panel bleeds behind. It bleeds all the way across the top. This little inset panel kind of sits on top of it, so whatever I'm drawing over here actually extends all the way around and to the panel, past the panel to the edge of the page. So to still make sure I remember to put that in there and try to keep it in perspective. All back here is all like vegetation though, trees and shrubs. This building has like a round chimney coming out of the top of it. There's another little building over here. That those should be pretty close to the same height. I think this one's actually a little bit tall now. So you follow this same perspective grid line here. Follow it all the way back, so the top of this building to be the same height to the top of this building and still have to follow along that line. So this building back here is just a wee bit tall right now because I don't want it to be taller than this building. It's not supposed to be. So I'll just shrink that down a little. Don't remember if there are windows on the front of this one or not. I'll have to go look that up. I think there are. I'm just not positive. That's okay. I will have to look at one of my previous pages to figure that out. Okay, we've got a couple of small boats over here. And then there's a larger catamaran type boat over here, which actually that dock is going to have to scoot because now this boat is like touching that boat. It's too close. I'll say the dock is back there a little more so that the outrigger on this catamaran is not touching the little rowboat. Here we go. And most of that, no one's ever even going to see this because it's past it's into the bleed. It's past like where the page would normally be cut off, so you're probably not even going to see most of that, but I need to know that it's there to correct. Dang it. So if you're watching, feel free to poke your head into the comments and say hi. I do periodically look up and see if anyone's talking. All right, we got a couple of little figures back here. Talking to each other, as one would guess from their body language. And got another, I'm going to move this tree because I want to put my figure right here. And I don't want the tree to be blocking her. So we're going to just move that tree over a little more so that now it's actually framing her. Much better. Okay. That's going to do it in that panel for the moment because I know I need more stuff up in here, but I honestly do not remember offhand what is supposed to fill this space right here. Might be more bushes. I feel like that's probably what it is. I'm going to have to go find one thing I should have had on hand on the side of my drafting table here would be one of the previous pages where you can see what's supposed to be over here, but it's in a drawer somewhere right now, so I don't know. I'll have to go and look for it a little later. Okay, so working on this little inset, I kind of still need to draw outside of the frame some to make sure that what's in the frame is still proportionate and makes sense. Because if you just try to draw like half a head without drawing the rest of the head, it's going to get all warped and funky looking. Those are still a little too big. I'm going to make those a little bit smaller because they're supposed to be a good distance away. Yeah, I don't like that line. I was trying to get away with not doing a perspective grid in this panel. I'm not sure that that's necessarily working to my benefit or not. Kind of just fudging it here. I don't like anywhere that I'm putting that line. I should have done a grid. Not gonna lie, I should have done a grid. I don't like that either, but I'll come back to it because right now it's just making me frustrated. So down here, roughing in the next tier. This is pretty much like the exact same shot both times. Oh, there's supposed to be like a boat and some other junk over there. Okay, so I'm not gonna put the edge of the building there. We'll put some of the boat and junk. That's right. I forgot about the boat and junk over here because this is the boat area. So there's a boat and there's some piles of ropes. And I think I have like a pole leaning up over here. Yep, that's what's supposed to be on the side of that building. All right, so we'll put some of the piles of ropes right here so that you know that this is basically the same shot. But we have not really moved. And all that is happening is that this character is sinking down into the water. Like, intentionally. Yeah. All right, now we have a shot over here. With one of these boats. And just a little head bobbing out, slowly swimming over to it. It just looks kind of funny. Hopefully it will look less funny. So I had an idea for this panel of what I wanted to do, and then I changed my mind. And I just came up with a different idea for this panel because I wanted something a little bit more dynamic, but I don't know if it's going to be more dynamic or if it's just going to look kind of silly and confusing. So I guess we'll find out. That is not the line I want. Like, what is happening here? I'm hoping that the even though it's kind of a weird shot, like a weird angle, that it'll all make sense when you see it. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense right this instant while I'm drawing it. Because right now it's just a bunch of scribbles while I figure out how this is going to look. I don't know. I feel like this is even if it's slightly weird, it's a more interesting shot than what I have. I may zoom in a little more. I'm not convinced that it needs to be pulled this far back, considering that I think most of the action that I need is in like this area. So I may redraw that yet. Sometimes you just gotta futz around, and when you actually see it on the page, you realize that the idea that you had is maybe not the best execution of what you could be doing there. Like that maybe it is a good idea, but you could be doing it differently, more effectively. Especially on a page like this where there is no dialogue, you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is as clear as possible. So it's like, this is all action, so I better make it work. Okay, so I have this page roughed in now. We are 18 minutes into the stream. I do think I need to go and find one of those other pages real quick because I do need to go in and start tightening this up, and I'm not really sure what is supposed to be happening in this little dead zone right here. So let me look over here. Okay, I think I found a reasonable page to help guide me. I've got a nice drawing of the whole temple layout, temple ground layout from the previous page. I just got a fancy new. I just got like a fancy new paper drawer, and I was trying to be nice and neat and pick up my studio and put things away, and I put away this page that I still needed to reference, which was very silly of me. But that's what I did. So there really isn't much to see right behind this. What the next thing you would see would be like way back here, so that it would basically be out of frame. So I'm going to try not to worry about that too much. But I do need to turn these guys into actual figures, not just little lumps. Oh, what is that? That's a very lumpy head happening there. It's still a very lumpy head. What are we doing? Alright, these guys are acting as guards, so they're warriors of Mandra, so they've got their little capelets. Everything they have is kind of got all these ceremonial layers and everything to it, because that's life working for a religious order, I guess. I keep knocking my camera. Okay. I'm not going to bother trying to get a ton of detail in their figures at this point, because they're pretty far off in the distance and pretty tiny. So you just want to get a basic notion of what their posture is like and where all their limbs and everything are. Alright, so there's those guys. Oh, they are armed. They have swords. Sword. It's just a little line. You have a sword now. You're far enough away that your sword is just a tiny line. We've got little windows. Should be another window there, but we're not going to worry about it too much because this guy's standing in front of it, so I'm not going to sweat it too much. Okay, so moving over to all the way to the foreground now. Things that are going to be in front. We've got these trees. Have another shrubby thing here, more trees up here, trying to make sure that the trees don't cause tangents with this little inset panel. That would be bad. Tangent as in when lines from two separate elements that are not meant to be related line up with each other and make them look like they're related. That's what a tangent is. So if this tree that's on a completely different panel lines up with her shoulder in this panel, then it looks awkward because they are not supposed to be lining up and touching each other. Like, they're not the same thing. They are not pieces that belong together. And so that effect is called a tangent, and it's distracting and makes things look weird because your eyes kind of like go right to it, like, oh, these are things that belong together, but they're not. And so it's just visually confusing. And some tangents are worse than others, and sometimes you're probably the only one who's going to see them. But in general, it's just the type of thing you want to try to avoid. And you're going to draw them. It's going to happen. And then you're going to be sad when you realize it after you're completely done with your page and you had scanned it in and published it for the entire world to see. And then you realize, oh my God, there's a horrible tangent there. But you're probably the only one who'll notice. You and other people who are like, who do comics, basically, or other illustration. Most other people will probably not notice. The less horrible ones. Really bad ones, they will, and they'll be like, what am I looking at? Big old bunches of curly dark hair. It's Kamaria. Okay, I need to make that a little clearer as to where that cloak just goes down into the water and the muck. Because she's in the swamp, so it's not like it's nice, clean, clear water. It's kind of gross water. Okay. All right, and now we've got a couple of little boats. I basically just erased, for a lot of this stuff, I basically just erased the whole underdrawing, but I can still see its little ghost there. Probably a little better than you can see it on camera here. And so then I can still just, it's probably how light I should have drawn it in the first place, but I get carried away and get too heavy-handed. So here's the little boat. Just a couple little benches in it. And it is moored to this dock with the tied onto this little nub here. There's a different little boat. All right. There's the edge of that Big old catamaran over there. It's got like a little railing around the top that I've already drawn this stupid boat several times now. I'm not gonna try to convince you I'm any good at drawing this boat, but I've done it many times. There's the dock. Water line, some planks, some decking. Right. Little bits of boat stuff over here. I think that pole needs to move over. If I recall correctly. Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of right past the end of it. Piles of ropes and things like you find on a dock. Right. Oh, there's that other little corner I have to not forget about. Speaking of, I'll go ahead and put, there should be some windows over in this corner. There should be a doorway over here. Oh, that's too wide. That's like a giant door. Needs to be a smaller door. There we go. That's more like it. A couple of windows over here, which we may or may not even really see by the time we get all the way over there. By the time we have this trimmed down, but that's fine. They're there. All right, so that's the first panel. Pretty well roughed in. Everything's kind of scrimey in this temple, so I've been trying to remember to add this kind of layer of scrime to things. I need to sharpen my pencil. All right, this little inset panel. Where I've got, not the most realistic shape going on with her hood, but really if you see someone with a hood from even a little bit behind, you're just going to see hood. And you're just going to see this big mass of fabric. And that doesn't work as well for, like, that's fine if what you're trying to do with a hooded character is obscure them from the audience, but I'm not trying to obscure them from the audience. She's wearing it because you know that she's being sneaky. But I don't want her to be sneaky to the audience. She's sneaky to other characters. So we do something where it's kind of a cheat like this, where it's like, would you really ever be able to see the side of her face while she's wearing a hood? Basically, no, unless that hood is falling halfway off her head. But it gives the impression that you are looking over her shoulder and you're in on what she's doing. You're not excluded from what she's doing because you don't have that barrier of not being able to see her face. You still see her face and you are seeing literally over her shoulder and figuratively over her shoulder through her eyes. You see that she is watching these guys and you're with her. You're not also removed from her. That's like a really deep dive into this one goofy drawing choice, but there's a reason for it, is what I'm getting at. There's a good storytelling reason. Still not crazy about how the edge of this dock situation is working, but you know what? It's what I've got to work with. It's what's going to happen. I don't think anyone's really going to even be looking at this so much. They're going to be looking at her and these figures. We need to be drawn a little more. We need to look like actual humans and not just blobs. All right. Clean up some of that underdrawing. On the next one. Oh! Did you see that? The nerve. I guess I need to sharpen this again. How dare my pencil just go and snap like that? Rude. All right. So the idea here is that what she's seeing, of course, is that neither of the guards is looking in her direction. They're busy talking with each other and not actually watching the dock. Okay, so there's that little panel. What are we at? We're at 40 minutes. Okay, moving right along. We'll get pretty far on this, I think. That's a little bit too high. Her lip will be touching her nose if we do that. She's got very full lips, so definitely want to preserve that look. So she's watching. Get some of these lines flowing down for her cloak here. It's pinned. Presumably she is not wearing the stolen laundry special anymore. As I liked to call it while I was working on those pages, the laundry thief outfit. Constance has hooked her up with some new threads. She is not wearing stolen dirty laundry anymore. But she's not wearing her old costume anymore either, which kind of makes me sad. She and Thel both lost their old costumes along the way. It wouldn't make any practical sense for them to continue wearing what they had been wearing before after what happened to them. But I'm a little bit sad because I'd been drawing them the same way for years and years, and now they both needed new outfits for the start of this volume. They both went through so much last volume that they needed new outfits now. But you're not really seeing hers yet. We've seen a little bit of Thel's so far. Not really seeing hers yet because she's sneaking around in this cloak right now that kind of covers everything up. All right. Try not to lose. I really like the way the waves of her hair came out in this drawing, so I'm really trying not to lose them and just fill it in with scribbles because I really don't want to lose that shape. Sometimes I just kind of draw this weird blob for where her hair is supposed to be, and I figure it out in inks, but I got some really nice movement there, and I didn't want to lose sight of it, so I just made sure to fill that in a little bit. So that's going to be shadowed because of the hood. Clean up some of this underdrawing a little bit, see what still needs to be resolved here. Okay. There we go. Okay, there's the water line. Make sure that the water ripples around her. Some more of this guzziness going on the edge of the dock there, like you have anywhere there's water. Where there is water, there is almost certainly scuzziness, unless it's like a chlorinated pool. All right, we've got piles of rope going here. There you go. Piles of rope, like you do. What are we at? We're at 47 minutes. Okay. I need to sharpen this pencil again. Hopefully the tip actually stays attached this time. Good grief. Seems like it's going to stay in place. Okay. So next panel. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7. Making pretty good time. Soften some of those up a little bit. It is really hard to draw a nose from below without it looking like a piggy snout. That's just sad facts. All right, now she's kind of sinking down into the water, tilting her chin up a little bit so we're getting a slightly different view here. to figure out which of those 12 lines I just drew there I'm actually going with. That's one of the things of why I had one professor who would always really, really harp on people. Back a million years ago when I was in school, I had one professor who would really harp on people about their pencils not being finished, and by which he meant to be ready to pass off to an inker who would be a totally separate person in, the typical big comics publisher assembly line type production of creating comics. So what he meant by finished pencils were pencils that were where there was only one line that you could possibly interpret as being the one that needed to be inked. So, because you were going to give it to someone else and they needed to know which line it was that you meant and not which of the half a dozen, because you were scribbling around trying to find the form of what you were trying to draw. Ew, some of her hair's getting in the muck. Gross. But anyway, he would always harp on people for their pencils not being finished enough, not being clean enough, not having a single line where they had figured stuff out and still having too many different options of lines. And I mean, he's certainly not wrong, he was certainly not wrong, especially not for the type of comics production that he was teaching us about. But obviously when I'm inking over my own pencils, I don't need to be quite as precise because I'm inking as kind of just an extension of the drawing process at that point. Not a totally separate process on its own. But yeah, I lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. I don't know where that tangent was going. Sorry. Totally derailed there. Other than to say, yeah, I know my pencils are kind of messy. But since I'm only inking over myself, it's not that big a deal. But I should still not leave. So, sinking down. Kind of want her eyes to be more over. She's looking that away, not just kind of up. She's watching. Watching for danger. Scuzziness. Ropes. Which I will do my best to have be at least really close to the same ropes as before. There we go. Yay. Okay, what are we at? We're at 55 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to work on this panel right here while I chat at you a little bit about what this thing is and all the things you can do. I have to do the things. I have to talk about the things that you can do, like you do when you're on the YouTubes. So you've been watching me work on my webcomic, Age of Night, which you can find at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT, as in the time of day, not the guy in the suit of armor. So I upload a new comic weekly. So a new comic page every Wednesday-ish. Unless I forget which day of the week it is, in which case it's up on Thursday. Work from home problems. But yeah, new comics every week, some day of the week, depending on if I remember what day of the week it is. You can also support me on Patreon, which is really super. That way you always get the comics a week ahead. So, like I said at the beginning of this, we're on chapter 23, page 2 online right now. My patrons are on page 3. They're always 1 week ahead. $2 and more a month patrons also get to see pencils. You also get to see behind the scenes stuff of other stuff that I'm working on, which I've got a pretty cool comic project in the works right now. Patrons have been receiving regular updates about that, which is really fun and exciting too. This boat, I need to put more wall there. This boat is like sinking the way that I have it drawn right now. Oopsie. Okay. If you like watching me draw and prattle on to myself and sometimes answer questions, we didn't get any questions this time, but I like to answer questions if people have questions in the comment section or just have stuff they want to chat about. If you like hanging out and watching me do this, then subscribe to this channel, like this video, make sure you hit the notification bell thingy so that when I go live, YouTube will actually tell you and you'll actually get a chance to see it. I try to do these live streams about once a week as well, usually on a Thursday or a Friday, depending on what's going on. I had to do them at a strange time this week because my schedule has been all sorts of wonky this week because the kids had school vacation, so everybody was home. You can also find me on Twitter at Age of Night. You can find me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. That's just my name with the letters ART after it. I think that's all the things. I think that's all the things I have to plug right now. I'm still in hibernation mode. It's the middle of winter, so I don't have any con appearances coming up, and I won't for a little while. That is A-okay with me. It is cold and I don't want to go anywhere. I don't even actually want to go anyplace warm because then I'd still have to come home here and it would still be very, very cold here for many, many months, and that would just make me sad. And there's the edge of the water. I'm almost done with this panel. Oh, 59 minutes, 29 seconds. Oh my gosh, we're so close. It's not really a race. If I go a couple seconds over it, it's fine. Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this hour. So I started with just some empty panel borders and some perspective grids. And now I have the whole thing roughed and 5 out of 7 panels drawn. So that's a pretty good start on this next comic page for my comic Age of Night. Thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with me and watching me draw, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.